Welcome in, whiskey freaks, to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your number one attitudinal bourbon destination. Today it's happy time, kids. Can you hardly believe it? It's going to be nothing but a Bret Michaels kind of good time today, kids. We're going to interview Bret. No, we're not going to interview Bret today, but I've got great news about lots of stuff in the whiskey world. And real quick, I want to shout out to all the loyal listeners we got in Japan, the United Kingdom, Germany, Sweden, Singapore, all over the world, and yeah, all 50 states here in the United States of America. Anyway, love you all. Appreciate the support as I get the word out, kind of in my own unique way about all the things about bourbon and whiskey and the industry in general. I kind of hope my take on things gives you something to think about, or laugh, or maybe even sometimes you yell at me, and that's fine too. Anyway, thank you. And if you haven't subscribed, please do it on the Apple or the YouTube. We're everywhere, iHeart, Spotify, everywhere. So hit that button, kids. Alrighty then, enough ass kissing. Let's get it started. I've got big news from Buffalo Trace. In fact, I've got huge news because, well, Buffalo Trace, right? I've got a few new releases worth mentioning, and I'm going to do that today. And I want to talk a little bit about what might be coming down the pike for us very soon. I'm going to get you right up to speed on all of that stuff. And then finally, I review new Riff Bottled in Bond straight bourbon whiskey from our good friends in Newport, Kentucky. So here's the deal. We got big news on Eagle Rare. I told you it was coming. I mentioned this a while back. This is huge.
Sometimes they say huge. I always call it massive.
Okay, maybe it's massive, actually. Either way, Eagle Rare 12 is here. And here's the best part, guys. And I told you this was going to be nothing but a good time today, so brace yourself. Eagle Rare 12 just came out yesterday at the gift shop at Buffalo Trace. And it's going to be 95 proof, 12 years old, and it's going to be sold at $49.99. Now, keep in mind, that's only at the distillery. God only knows what you're going to see it for at your local liquor stores, at least for a while. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this really could be a game changer. Now, the mash bill, like always, and we're not 100% sure about the mash bill, but it's Buffalo Trace's low rye mash bill number 1. The age, like I said, it's 12 years old. And the availability, this is what's interesting. They say this is going to be a permanent U.S. release, and they're going to be distributing it internationally later this year. Now, master distiller Harlan Wheatley, he claims this release is about years of experimentation and refinement, not just tossing it in a barrel for a bit longer. Now, I'm going to say, probably didn't have to reach out to Mensa to figure out how to leave it in the barrel for 2 extra years. I mean, really, it's not rocket science here. And I'm not trying to talk down about Mr. Wheatley, but adding the extra proof to it, leaving it in the barrel for a couple extra years, probably should have done this years ago. And I'm thrilled. I'm ecstatic, really. It's been a long time coming, and we can thank the bourbon glut. I know that's terrible for the makers, but it's amazing for us. And let's be honest, whiskey freaks. Harlan, you had us at 12 years and under $50, even if that lasts about a week. Now, Buffalo Trace says the nose is sweet oak and almond. The palate is vanilla, toasted oak, and toffee, like Eagle Rare 10, but it's kind of beefed up a bit with more depth. And my translation is, it's Eagle Rare. It's just older and probably slightly better. I just couldn't agree more. As soon as I get some, I'm going to review it here on the pod to be sure and let you guys know. Not going to be going down to Kentucky. I don't know if I'll be down there in July like usual. So I just don't know when I'm going to get my hands on it, and I'm not paying crazy secondary. I'm going to get it from the distillery. So anyway, more to come on that. Where does Eagle Rare 12 fit into the Eagle lineup at Buffalo Trace? So we've got Eagle Rare 10 year. Now, they say, the good folks at Buffalo Trace, that the 10 year is here to stay, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I believe, and I expect that once 12-year starts getting cranked out here full throttle, I think the 10-year is going to ride off into the sunset. I don't understand why we would keep the 10-year around. Doesn't make a damn bit of sense to me. They're telling us they're keeping it. I don't believe them, but what the hell do I know? So for now, Eagle Rare 12 is a line extension. It's not a replacement, and it joins the 10-year as a pricier, older sibling. We still have Eagle Rare 17-year in the antique collection. We have Double Eagle Very Rare, the 20-year. And if you've got stupid kind of money laying around and somebody at a liquor store you can bribe, you'll get one of those. And Eagle Rare 25-year, which is basically a bourbon unicorn. Anyway, Buffalo Trace says Eagle Rare 12 is here to stay, and maybe it is. So basically, if you can find it at MSRP, at least for the near future, good luck to you. You hit the jackpot. Got big news from our good friends at Redemption Whiskey. Now, they're owned by the Deutsch family Wine and Spirits, and it's one of the many brands produced at MGP in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Ross the Squib, we know MGP, right? So what's the big news? Well, Redemption is releasing a very limited edition bourbon for Father's Day. Now, this was yesterday, and I know this is coming out the day after Father's Day, but let's face it, you're never going to get your hands on this one, guys. And this is why. This release from Redemption is 18 years old. They're only putting out 2,400 bottles. And it's $399.99. So there is no way you're going to get your hands on that. Now, they're taking pre-orders on June 15th on reservebar.com if you want to try and get one, but I wouldn't get my hopes up. So here are the deets on this one in particular. It does sound great. The bourbon is part of Redemption's Ancients series, and it was distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, as we know, MGP. It spent nearly 2 decades aging and was carefully selected by master blender Alan Kennedy, who described it as one of the most complex and refined bourbons the brand has ever released. Now, long aging like this can sometimes make bourbon a little too woody or harsh, but Kennedy says this one held on to its balance and depth. Okay, great. They say this limited release is aimed at serious bourbon collectors, longtime Redemption fans, and anyone looking to impress Dad with something he'll probably never drink and just keep it up on the shelf. Okay, I added that last part. I'm not going to be snarky, not going to be hateful today, even though with this tiny bottle count and that $400 price tag, I probably should. Honestly, my head almost exploded when I saw this release. I know, it's been aging for 18 years, and they clearly didn't rush this thing, but guys, seriously, $400? The tasting notes for Redemption 18-year-old bourbon are warm oak, cherry jam, cinnamon, and a touch of mint. Doesn't sound amazing to me, might sound amazing to you, don't know. The palate is cherry and oak with sweet corn, vanilla, and light leather. The finish is medium to long with oak and vanilla leading into lingering cherry flavors. Listen, you do you on this one, guys. Well, the good news, it's at least a 750 milliliter bottle. So at least there's that. Wyoming Whiskey honors Buffalo Bill Cody with a new limited edition bourbon. So Wyoming Whiskey just came out with this limited edition 6-year-old bourbon called Buffalo Bill Cody. But the bad news, it's available only in Wyoming. They say the release honors the legendary frontiersman William Buffalo Bill Cody, who helped shape the image of the American West through his adventurous life and famous Wild West shows. Now, the bourbon comes from grains grown in Wyoming. This is kind of their shtick. Distilled in Kirby, Wyoming, using a blend of 26 hand-picked barrels. And it was created to celebrate the distillery's founding anniversary, which is July 4th, which is cool. And they started back in 2009. So this release pays tribute to the state's history and culture, so they say. Each year, Wyoming Whiskey releases a limited bottle that highlights a person or a story from the state's past, and this year, as I mentioned, is Buffalo Bill. I had to mention this particular release. I know it's only available in Wyoming, but a couple of reasons here. It's a cool new release to me, and despite the limited availability, and I, along with lots of y'all, love the Wild West times. And so I always mention the world whiskey stuff, Doc Holliday and all that good stuff. And now this one to honor Buffalo Bill Cody from Wyoming Whiskey. It just had to be done. Master blender Brendan Cook said the goal was to make a bourbon that stood out from the regular Wyoming whiskey lineup while still reflecting the distillery's signature flavors. And that's really cool. He says he wanted something Buffalo Bill himself might have enjoyed after a long ride across the West. It's got, on the nose, it's got leather, cherry chocolate, black forest cake, toffee, and honeyed almonds. That sounds incredible. The palate is lemon cake, caramel nougat, milk chocolate, almond brittle, and honey. Sounds terrific to me, and I just had to mention it. Sorry, guys. The handful of you that live in Wyoming, you're in good shape. Maybe they'll ship to you. I don't know. The rest of us were just screwed. But anyway, had to mention it. And this one's really super cool to me for a number of reasons. This next one is Ramus Babe Ruth Reserve, and it's just been released. It comes from MGP out of Indiana, Ross and Squibb. Their house brand, George Ramus. This is the Babe Ruth Reserve, and it's dedicated to the legendary ball player and home run king. The good folks at Ramus Bourbon have teamed up with the Babe Ruth family to launch a limited edition whiskey called the 2025 Ramus Babe Ruth Reserve. Now, they released one last year, and now they're releasing this one. This one was just released. This is what's so crazy. This one was just released when the Yankees faced off against the Red Sox last week. And this special bottle honors the baseball legend known as the Bambino. This is cool too. They've only produced 8,399 bottles, one for each of Ruth's career at bats. So that's kind of fun. And there's a QR code on the back label that allows customers to scan and find out what Ruth did in the game of their particular numbered bottles at bat. Very cool. What's actually in the bottle is also unique, not just the fact that they're doing all these other fun things. The Babe Ruth Reserve is a blend of 3 different high rye bourbons to honor Ruth's uniform, which was number 3. The most notable thing about the liquid is actually the mash bills. They included 3 mash bills, like I said, and this year's Babe Ruth is going to come in at the same proof point. I think it's 111. Yeah, it's going to be 111 proof. The mash will be a medley. Like I said, they'll use 73% of a 49% rye mash from back in 2017. They'll use 15%, this is complicated, I'm sorry, 15% of a 2016 that was 44% rye and 12% of MGP's 36% rye from 2017. Eyes and brain glazing over. Anyway, so this one will be like a year older than last year. So I think we're going to be in the 7 to 8 year range for the distillate, for the whiskey in the bottle. Now, this is the part that's killing me. The release was celebrated at Yankee Stadium last week during a Yankees and Red Sox game. Tom Stevens, who was Babe Ruth's grandson, he was there alongside the good folks from Ramus to celebrate. And here's my rub. And I know it's supposed to be nothing but a good time today, I know. But here's my deal. I was actually at Yankee Stadium last week, and I got to see them play the Gardindians. They got their asses kicked. But my point here is, it looks like I just missed getting to try this stuff at the ballpark when they played the Red Sox. That's all. I'm moving on. The bottle design is just as special as the bourbon inside, so they say at Ramus. It features a sleek art, and they're not lying here. It features a sleek Art Deco-inspired look with embossed baseball diamond patterns and a wooden cork shaped like a bat knob. The labels include Babe Ruth's signature, pinstripes, and baseball-themed details. So it's very super cool, very unique. It's going to stand out sitting on your shelf. Looks very expensive. It's not very expensive, though. It's only going to be priced at $149.99. And I know nowadays that's still a little high for some of us, but in the grand scheme of things, we just talked about a $400 bottle. Now we're talking about a $149.99. And it's a 750 milliliter bottle, so I love that. Looks good. Looks like they kept the price point about the same as last year, so that's amazing. So good news. I promised good news today. Penelope. I want to talk about Penelope a little bit. They've just introduced a new limited release. Okay, it's sort of limited. They've just announced their Cigar Sessions Chapter 1. It's the first release in a new annual series of American whiskey designed to pair with medium-bodied cigars. If you're a cigar smoker, you're going to love this one. This blend includes straight bourbon, American single malt, and American light whiskey. They say Chapter 1 is bottled at 101 proof, and it's aged 6 years with a mash bill of 72 corn, 15 rye, and 13 malt. Nothing really standing out to me there about that mash bill, but they say their tasting notes include aromas of milk chocolate, vanilla, and candied apple, followed by flavors of chocolate, dried peach, tobacco, and caramel, finishing with toffee, dark fruit, and light oak. Sounds like it's got a lot going on there for only being aged 6 years, and that's kind of I wouldn't call it a generic mash bill, but it's kind of a normal kind of mash bill. They say the release is limited to 45,000 bottles. That doesn't sound real limited to me, but fine. You can call it whatever you want to call it. It's going to be available in select markets starting here in June. And the suggested retail price is affordable at $79.99. And again, the 750 milliliter bottle. Glad to see that. Oh, one last thing. Penelope says that Cigar Sessions Chapter 1 is crafted to elevate the experience of enjoying whiskey alongside a cigar, combining classic bourbon sweetness with deeper tobacco-friendly notes. I love me tobacco notes. I don't smoke cigars, but I am hoping this one comes to Illinois. I'd like to try it. I'd like to get my hands on it for sure. It's got a great price point, and I'd really like to check that one out. Okay, so funny story. Okay, maybe it's not a funny story. Maybe it's a rant, and I know I promised this is going to be nothing but a good time today, and it really still is, I think. So I still got to get this off my chest, and this thing has been eating at me. Let me tell you about my neighbors. Let me tell you about how we first met. We first got introduced one night, late, when they ran over my mailbox, like they fully demolished it, just a couple weeks after they moved in. And to be fair, they did the right thing. They paid for the damage and all that good stuff, and they manned up, and it was great. But that's how it started. So then late last year, they just stopped mowing their yard. And look, I'm not gonna be that grumpy old man that's yelling at clouds. Okay, but their grass got like 1.5 feet tall. And here's the thing on this street. Everybody mows their yard every week. Every single house. Hard to believe, right? But their overgrown jungle, it kind of stood out like a sore thumb. So eventually, let's just say somebody called the city. And boom, the next day, they're out mowing their yard. Now, fast forward to this spring. All the yards look great. Everyone's out there line trimming and mulching and edging, the whole deal. Except these folks, my neighbors right next door. Now, at this point, their grass is pushing 2 feet tall again. Now, we back up to the woods. So the last thing I need is snakes and groundhogs. That's a whole nother story for another day. We don't need creatures and critters in the backyard. We've got enough skunks and raccoons and everything. So, someone called the city again. And what do you know? Next day, they roll out with this massive zero-turn lawnmower, and they clean the whole place up, and the yard looked great. But here's the kicker. A few days later, my family, we're all sitting out on our deck, and we hear this humming, this weird, like a UFO, like this weird electric humming noise. And I'm not kidding. There's a robot lawnmower crawling across my neighbor's yard. The people who never mow? Yeah, now they've got this goddamned robot doing it for them. Just gliding along at like 0.5 miles an hour. It's quietly buzzing and trimming their yard to perfection. And now, guess whose yard looks amazing every day? These neighbors. Perfect stripes, diamond pattern. They got a nice, beautiful yard now at any moment on any day of the week. Always freshly cut. Meanwhile, the rest of us, who've been mowing like clockwork year after year, week after week, our yards don't look half as good because Our yard is always contrasted against their yard that looks perfect every minute of every day. So these jokers just kind of hit us with a big hold my beer moment, I guess. I think that damn robot thing must run all day, every day. I mean, you look out the front window like at 11 o'clock at night and you see the little headlight on it and it's mowing the lawn at night. It's crazy. Or is it crazy? I looked up the model number of this thing because I snapped a picture of it. This thing costs somewhere between $1,500 and $1,600. My question is, when will that rechargeable battery wear out? Does anybody out there know? Reach out to me, because as much as I hate to admit it, the little Mr. Roboto thing, it's kind of cool, actually. So I guess the joke's on us. We're out here sweating, mowing, trimming, edging like a good neighbor. And these folks, they just waited us out. Then they let a robot take over. Now they've got the best looking yard on the block and they don't lift a finger. Believe it or not, I'm nearly speechless here. I mean, I don't know whether to be mad or impressed or just start Googling robot lawnmowers, right? Well, this is suburban life, and I guess it's first world problems. Had to get that off my chest. Shifting gears. So, as this is the Good Time Charlie episode, let's take a look into my crystal ball. Let's see what's coming down the bourbon pike in the near or probably near future. And as I've mentioned before, I keep my ear to the ground. Okay, not really, but I keep an eye on the good folks at the TTB. And when I say the good folks at the TTB, I'm talking about the good old Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, a U.S. government agency under the Department of Treasury. Well, what do? Well, they regulate the production, labeling, and distribution of alcohol, among other things. Basically, they're the reason you don't see wild claims or shady information on whiskey bottles. And they're the ones collecting that sweet federal excise tax money. Oh yeah. Before a bottle ever hits your local liquor store, that label, it has to be submitted to the TTB by the distillery. And it's submitted through their online system. So, what happens is they upload their label, includes all the required info like the alcohol by volume, the brand name, the health warnings, all that good stuff. The TTB checks it over to make sure it's compliant, not misleading. If it passes, it gets approved. Yay! It's simple as that. Well, it's not always simple, but that's the idea. Why am I telling you this? Because I've been poking around and I found some interesting new label submissions that might be hitting shelves soon. And if you like knowing what's coming before it gets here, you're in the right place. So let's check out some possible, likely, future pours. We've got one coming from Coors Whiskey. They brought us 5 Trails and Barman 1783, and now we're going to get blended American malt whiskey. It features malt from the historic Coors Malt House in Golden, Colorado. It's aged 8 years, and it comes in at 110.5 proof. It's blended and bottled by Coors. They say it's for those who believe the difference between good and great lies in the details. We bring you this premium limited release. It brings forward vibrant notes of sweet melon and subtle smoky finish. Sounds weird to me. I would try it at a bar maybe when it comes out. Just wanted to let you know. If you like Coors or you like what the guys have been doing there, here you go. Okay, here's another big announcement. Eagle Rare 30-year-old bourbon whiskey.
Say what?
Yes, it's coming, kids. And it's gonna, I say gonna, but I mean probably. It will be 101 proof and 30 long years old. I'm probably going to have to convince the wife to take me by the payday loan place on our way to the liquor store for that one. Anyway, good luck if you get your hands on that one, guys. I have no idea what that would taste like. Sounds overaged to me, but hey, the good folks at Buffalo Trace have been doing good things for a long time. Who am I? And lastly today, coming to you in a liquor store nearby and very soon, Doc Holliday 13-year-old whiskey, courtesy of our good friends at the World Whiskey Society. It'll be 13 years old and finished in Oloroso sherry casks and come in at cask strength as a single barrel edition. The label looks kind of Wild Westy and it talks about Doc in the Wild West. It's very cool. if you love whiskey, and it's extra cool if you love Doc Holliday and the Wild West times. Keep in mind, I say it's coming soon, and it probably is. There's no guarantee of that just because they created a label and submitted it to the TTB, but they're probably going to use it, right? And fun fact about Doc Holliday, you probably, or maybe not know, he was actually a trained dentist. And then he was a gunfighter. He went to dental school in Pennsylvania at the University of, what is now an Ivy League school, the University of Pennsylvania. And then he went out west. But the big question is, why did Doc Holliday, a trained dentist, end up living life as a gambler and a Wild West kind of badass who hung out with Wyatt Earp? Well, the answer is quite simple. Tuberculosis. Doc was diagnosed with tuberculosis at a young age. And, well, coughing up blood in a dental chair doesn't exactly keep patients coming back. So, with his health failing and his career basically over in the dental world, he turned to gambling, not just for money, but actually for survival. So back in the Old West, gambling was actually, believe it or not, because they say gambling was a legit profession, and you weren't just some shady drifter, you were a skilled operator, especially if you played faro or poker. And Doc, the guy was sharp. He was good with numbers, and more than anything, he was cool under pressure. He just kind of fit right into the Old West. But here's the kicker. Being a gambler in those days also meant you needed to know how to handle yourself when things got, let's say, a little heated. So that's how Doc Holliday, born in Georgia, trained to be a dentist in Philadelphia, became one of the most feared gunfighters of the Old West. He could barely breathe, but what he could do, he could still outdraw you at the drop of a hat in a gun battle. So now you know more about Doc Holliday. And it's kind of my Achilles heel here, guys. I love talking about the Wild West days and guys like Wyatt Earp and Jesse James. And today, Doc Holliday. Oh, shit. I almost forgot to mention Barton 1792 is bringing us a 15-year-old bourbon. It's coming out soon. The label's been created. They're not going to do that for no reason. It's probably going to be here, and it's going to be 15 years old. And I'm saying, guys, this whiskey glut, it's working out for us. It'll be Barton 1792's first cask strength offering. And get this, the label shows it's going to be a 1-liter bottle. That's the only part about this that confused me. I'm not sure they have to put it in a 1-liter bottle just because that says that on that label. I need to do a little bit more research into that. But anyway, it says it's a 1-liter bottle. I don't know. It's interesting stuff. Now you're up to date on the future. And to me, the future looks bright. All right, let me talk a little bit about, a little less about facts and a little bit more about how I approach things. So it's just in a pretty heated, okay, maybe not heated, but thoughtful. We'll say thoughtful. It was a thoughtful discussion with my brother the other day about whiskey reviews and reviewing whiskey like I do. He was arguing that when reviewing a whiskey or a bourbon, you have to be more nice to distilleries. You have to keep things more friendly and not be too harsh with the words because it's all about the relationships in the industry. And I kind of get that. And those are my words. I'm paraphrasing. Those weren't his exact words, but I'm kind of summing it up. Maybe I'm not framing it exactly right, but that's the gist I got. And I get where he's coming from, sort of, but honestly, that's just not how I roll. Here's the deal. My goal with this podcast is to tell the truth. No getting swept up in the hype. No pretending I'm best buddies with the distillers or the master blenders or other podcasters or industry big shots. And if you notice that, the other podcasters, it's a circle jerk. One podcaster goes on another podcast and another podcaster goes on another and they just go back and forth around in a circle. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, I'm not looking to be involved with the big industry, big shots either. I always buy my own whiskey to review. There's no freebies here. There's no favors. And that way I'm completely independent and honest. I tell it like it is. There's no bullshit here. You guys deserve brutal honesty. And you know what? You can be both respectful and honest at the same time. And if a bourbon tastes like burnt rubber and tar paper, That's what I'm going to say, even if it's from a big name distillery or a popular brand that everyone expects you or wants you to like. If I think it's crap, I'm calling it crap. Now, I don't often say it that bluntly, but I do call it how I see it, and that's because you deserve it. You ever notice how some whiskey reviewers never seem to have anything bad to say? Every bottle is stunning or complex or a must-have. Yeah, sure it is, guys. Let me break it down for you. Imagine you're like a big-time tech reviewer on the YouTubes, and a company starts sending you their latest gadgets, phones and tablets and smartwatches. They want you to try them out, all for free, and all before anyone else gets a hold of them. You do your reviews, but here's the thing. You never really say anything bad. Even if the battery sucks or the thing overheats or it's basically a piece of crap, you downplay it. Now, why is that? Well, the minute you get real, the freebies are going to stop. You're going to lose early access. You're going to be off the VIP list, and the company moves on to the next smooth-talking asshole who'll keep things friendly. Now, swap out phones for whiskey. You think that doesn't happen in bourbon land? Come on, man. Some reviewers get bottles sent to them for free, special release. And when I say some, I mean most of them. Special releases, limited edition, stuff the rest of us have to beg for or line up for or pay a premium or bribe somebody for. And guess what? They start pulling punches. Every pour is remarkable. Every note is masterful. And the finish is always long and luxurious. A symphony in your mouth, right? Because if they say, hey, this bottle tastes like soggy cardboard and sadness, they're done. No more gifts, no more early drops, no more perks. It becomes less about telling the truth and more about staying in the club. And here's the thing. I don't just judge the whiskey. You'll know that if you've listened to the podcast. I judge the people behind it. If a distillery pulls some shady marketing crap, or they jack up prices with some crazy fake backstory, or they pretend a sourced bourbon is some kind of family heirloom, I'm going to talk about it. I'm not here to kiss asses. I'm here to ask why things are the way they are. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, good. That means we're getting somewhere. So when I say something's good, it's not because I'm trying to stay friends with the distillery or other podcasters who own distilleries or any big book writing whiskey gurus you see at the special events, hanging out with Brent Elliott or Fred No. It's because it actually earned it. This is the Blind Tasting Podcast, kids, where we're not here to make pals. We're here to tell the truth in every single pour. And that leads me to my review, the fun part. We're back in the fun zone, kids. Yay! Let's do this review of New Riff Bottled in Bond Straight Bourbon Whiskey. All right, whiskey freaks, let's talk a little bit about New Riff. And you know, if you listen to the podcast, I like to give 2 minutes of history or a backstory, and then we get to tasting. So if you're not familiar, New Riff Distilling is based in Newport, Kentucky, and it's just across the river from Cincinnati. It's a family-owned operation. Oh, there's the bottle. It's a family-owned operation that kicked things off in 2014, and it was started by a guy named Ken Lewis. And it's so nice to have a name you can pronounce, and I don't have to struggle with it. Thank you, Ken Lewis. Anyway, he was a liquor store owner turned distillery founder, and his whole mission was to, as he says, put a new riff on an old tradition. And that's what they're trying to do there. That is their overarching motto. A new riff on an old tradition. Very clever. They make high rye bourbon, straight rye, American single malt, and even a little gin. And I love it about these guys. Everything is transparent. The mash bills, the age statements, the fact that they don't chill filter, all out in the open. And I'll say more about that in just a second. And here's another cool part. New Riff pulls its water. It's always the water, am I right, guys? So I got to mention the water. Remember Devil's River whiskey, the rye I reviewed a couple months back that tasted like shit? Yeah, they just filed bankruptcy. And anyway, back to the water. Their water at New Riff, it comes from a deep limestone aquifer that runs right beneath the distillery. It's a classic kind of Kentucky water, which is mineral rich, iron free, and they say it's perfect for making bourbon. In fact, they believe so much in their water that New Riff has named their tasting room at the distillery the Aquifer. So, yeah, the water. It's a thing. Now, they dropped their first release in 2018, and now they've got bottles in all 50 states. But even with that growth, they've stayed independent, and they say they're focused on quality and always pushing for something new. They say whether it's a bottled in Bond Bourbon, which we're going to review today, a barrel-proof single barrel, or some wild experimental malt they're cooking up, they're trying new things at New Riff, and that's very cool. If you're anywhere near the area, like let's say we're on the Bourbon Trail and you're in Lexington, shoot on over to New Riff there. It's only 80 miles away. It'd be well worth checking them out. And now the history lesson is over. And on to the tasting. So the bottle, it's, I don't always talk about it, but sometimes I do. This one requires me to talk about it, really. You can't miss it on the shelf at the liquor store. The New Riff bottles, it's kind of a tall, slender profile with a long neck and kind of a sleek, modern shape. It's got a matte black top, and it kind of fades down into clear glass at the very bottom of the bottle. So it's very cool, very different, very cutting edge, so to speak. And you can grab this bad boy from your local liquor store, because I've never seen it at Sam's Club, never seen it at Walmart or Target or anywhere like that. But I have seen it at the liquor store, and you're going to have to go to the liquor store, I think, in most cases. And you should pay around $40 for it. Now, it comes in at 100 proof. Duh, it's bottled in Bond. And they say it's at least 4 years old. So it technically could be more than 4 years. The mash bill, this is another interesting piece of their puzzle. It features a mash bill of non-GMO grains, and it comes in at 65% corn, 30% rye, freaking crazy high rye, and 5% malted barley. So super high rye. Like I said, it's non-chill filtered, and all this info is readily available. I didn't have to, go to ChatGPT or one of these other crazy places to find this information. It's readily available. So they mean it when they say they're transparent, and that's refreshing to me. It just burns me up when you have to basically visit the master distiller's house to find out what the hell's in the mash bill. By the way, never ever go to a master distiller's house unless you're invited. Little disclaimer there. For those of you with infinity bottles, that was sarcasm. So today I'm tasting with a Glencairn, my favorite limestone branch Glencairn actually. And I've got my Heaven Hill tasting notebook, and there's a reason for that. I always keep that handy. I like to make notes, and I like to put down each tasting I do. And I'm a whiskey freak, so I add them to a gigantic Word document later, and that's so it's searchable. I can go in there and I can search. I'm tasting so many whiskeys that there is absolutely no way I can remember every aspect of my tasting. So I do this for, like I said, I do this for two reasons. I do it for, I'm a whiskey freak, and I want to keep track of what I tasted and when, and that's important because something I've noticed over time, sometimes when I taste something weeks or even years later, it's possible that what I enjoyed or hated then is not what I enjoy or hate now. Doesn't happen a lot, but I've even mentioned that on the pod here before with, I had a Ramus a barrel pick a few years ago. It just seemed like it changed. I don't know. But when something does change as it relates to my palate or the way I feel about a whiskey or a bourbon, I want to be able to go back, see where I was, what I was doing, what was I eating when I first sampled it, and then I can compare notes. Was I at the distillery? Whatever. And number two, there is no way, like I said, that I can keep track of all the whiskey I'm tasting without a document that kind of chronicles my experiences. And it's kind of an archive for me. I ain't no spring chicken, kids, and I'm not even sure if I was a younger dude that I'd be able to keep track of all this. So get a notebook, and if you're a freak like me, you'll either put it into a Word doc or Excel or something, but you do you. Alrighty, let me crack this bottle open. Oh, shit. Okay, so the color, and the color sometimes gives you an idea of the breadth of flavors you're about to receive in your mouth. In my opinion, the darker the hue of the whiskey in your glass, the deeper the flavors. And that's not always true, but I've found that it is. Sometimes it is, most of the time. And I'm going to say it every single time. The color one on this one, I would say, like I said, I've got good lighting down here. It's like a CIA interrogation down here. I would say it's like kind of a thin honey or like a light straw. Not real impressive really for something that says it's at least 4 years old, but it is what it is. Let's get in on the nose. Getting a nice caramel note. Good citrusy note here, like an orangey type of zesty citrusy. And maybe the slightest bit of like a cornbread smell. Not terribly complex at this point, but it is pleasant. It's very pleasant on the nose for sure. It's got medium legs. So I move it around in the glass. The droplets slide down the inside of the glass. I want to get a taste of this and see what it's all about. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. That rye spice hits hard right off the bat. Honestly, it's not letting much else get through. Let me get another sip here. This is intriguing. Yeah, I can tell this one's going to be a challenge today. That orange I got, that citrusy note on the nose, it's working its way through quite well here. It's battling that barrage of rye spice at this point. And it's just got the shortest burst of caramel in here too. This is good. Sorry, I had to get one more sip here. Yeah, that rye spice is very prevalent. And for those of you with infinity bottles, that means predominant. And of course, that makes sense since this mash bill is rye heavy. But it's real rye heavy. Let me get one more sip, guys. So here on the finish, you do get some oakiness as well as that caramel. It's really snuck in there real nicely, and it's kind of working really well with that orange citrusy, the oakiness, and I'm enjoying that citrusy note very, very much. I've always loved that note in my whiskey. You'll often get that with a high rye mash, which is what we're looking at here. It's a good long finish too, but that rye spice is very strong all the way down the road. Just got to let you know that. If this is something you pick up, you're going to really have to be into that rye spice. So what's the verdict? Well, I'll have the answer right after the money spot. Are you looking to update your bar or man cave with some great photographs or wall art? Head over to Etsy at famousdocs.etsy.com and pick up some fantastic prohibition, bourbon, whiskey, and gangster-related photographs and wall art. Guys, you've got to get over to famousdocs.etsy.com and check this stuff out. They've got photographs of Al Capone, John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde, all kinds of cool prohibition pictures. And if you purchase 4 or more items right now, you'll get 20% off your entire order for a limited time. You've got to head over to famousdocs.etsy.com. famousdocs.etsy.com. So if you listen to the Blind Tasting Podcast, you know we have 3 verdict options. Are we going to keep it? Are we going to collect it? Or are we going to cull it? To keep it means to proudly display it in your liquor cabinet or your bar. This stuff's good for a pour anytime, but there's really no need to stock up on it since it's always available. Collect it. Grab another bottle or maybe 2 since you find it so damn delicious, or it just may not be easy to get your hands on. Or cull it. Use it to loosen rusty bolts or sanitize a dirty toilet. In the case of new Riff Bottled in Bond straight bourbon whiskey, I say keep it. All right, it's a decent pour neat. it's different for sure. And maybe that's what they're trying to do there at New Riff. They want to try new things. This is new. This is different. And that high rye spice is very strong. So if you're not into that sort of thing, you might want to pass on it. I'd liken this bourbon in a lot of ways to Bulleit. It's a high rye bourbon as well. I think Bulleit's at like 28% rye or so. Very similar in my opinion. Sadly, I do not have any Bulleit here in my pile of bourbon and whiskey at the house, so I don't have any of that to compare it to today. But I do have some Old Forester 1897, which is also bottled in bond. It's got a somewhat higher rye profile than other bourbons. I think it's 18% for Old Forester 1897. And I know, I wish I had something like Wilderness Trail or Bulleit with something with the higher rye in the mash bill, but I really want to try something today. So I'm going to make do with the 1897. You may say that's not a fair comparison. You may be right. You may not be right. Just humor me here. I just want to bounce this idea off each other real quick. So hang with me. So I am going to get a little Old Forester 1897 bottle. It's a bottled in bond straight bourbon whiskey from our good friends at Old Forester. I'm going to take a look at it first and look at the color. I'm going to compare them side by side in the glass with the New Riff. And clearly, the Old Forester 1897 is at least 2 shades darker than the New Riff. So that's interesting right off the bat. Let me nose it real quick. Yeah, that's now I'm getting a little bit more alcohol on the nose here with the Old Forester, but it's giving off kind of a rich, full, really a bolder aroma. It's got more caramel, maybe some toffee, maybe even a bit of tobacco leaf in here too. Let me get a sip of the Old Forester 1897. Yeah, it's good. Caramel. It's got a hint of that orange citrusy in here too. But the best part, I'm getting this dark fruit note coming out. Very, very nice. It's not as, I'd say, well, let me get one more sip. Yeah, it's not as in your face as the New Riff. It's a more pleasant, balanced sip to me. You get a bit of spice on the finish, but it's more subtle and I would say well-rounded to me. Now you can expect to pay around $55 to $60 for Old Forester 1897 nowadays. So that might be a trade-off for you. You can pay the $40 to $45 or so for the New Riff, or you can pay the $55 to $60 for the Old Forester 1897. It's kind of even Steven there when you think about it. To me, I know this. You might be saying this isn't a fair comparison, but guys, I didn't have the Bulleit laying around, so I wanted to do at least some kind of comparison here between these two whiskeys, the bottled and bonds. So there you have it. It's a nice little comparison for you to make kind of a more informed decision with your hard-earned money. And like I said, if you like a rye spice that's heavy in your pour, New Riff. If you're looking for a bit more balance, then Old Forester 1897. I mean, the New Riff, it would be amazing in a Manhattan or maybe an Old Fashioned. I think you can sip it too, but be cautious about that rye spice. It's very, very bold. Last but not least, I got to give a shout out to the farmers, distillery production guys and gals, the warehouse workers, the bottlers, and the truck drivers. They make it happen, so cheers to all of them. Well, that's all I got for today, Whiskey Freaks. Thanks for listening to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your #1 attitudinal bourbon destination.